Hello and welcome to my review of Sony's Spider-Man PS4 exclusive. It's made by Insomniac Games, and to just give you the short answer, it's a very good game. I enjoyed it a lot when I played it. It's a while since I've played it because I wanted to just play it and then leave it to cool a bit. I've written down my thoughts of it when I played it, but I thought I'll leave it to cool a bit in case my thoughts change after it's like the honeymoon period and all that, in case I change my mind, basically, because otherwise I'd have to delete the video and upload it in again and everything, and it'd just be a pain to do that. So I just thought I'll wait a bit. But regardless, I'm getting into the video now. I hope you enjoy it. It's all my thoughts of when I played it, because I decided not to change any of it, and I'll just get into it now. In this game, you play as Spider-Man years after starting the job, so you've already taken down most of the Spider-Man villains apart from Fisk, and a couple who aren't actually villains yet, which I'm not going to mention who they are because it'd be spoilers. The story is kind of a main part of the game, so you probably don't want to hear spoilers if you can avoid it. But anyway, you're Spider-Man, but you also play, I'd say quite a bit, as Peter Parker without a suit or anything. You play partly as you do your job basically with Dr. Octavius. You talk to him. I really like Dr. Octavius. He's a really nice guy, and you do jobs for him, which then helps you upgrade your suit later on, so it's useful to do the jobs for him. But you also work in the Feast Center a little bit. It's mainly just cutscenes there, but you work in the Feast Center as a volunteer with Aunt May, and the Feast Center is a homeless shelter in the heart of the city, which obviously helps the homeless people. But yeah, that's a brief introduction to like the story of the game, which I can't really go too much further in, otherwise I'll spoil it. Moving on from the story though, we're going to move to the second biggest part of most games, which is the gameplay, and more specifically for now, the combat. The combat is very similar to the Arkham games combat in terms of how you punch and you dodge, and you have things above your head when you need to dodge out of the way. But I would say it's better because you get suit powers and gadgets, which are themed about webs. So you have normal, just spraying your webs, which is on like a countdown timer thing, not a countdown timer, but you have a limited amount that you can shoot before it replenishes. But you also have impact grenades, which are kind of like bombs that web them to walls and such. You have the web bomb. These are ones that you unlock later on as you go down the line. You also have electric webs and web mines, to name, I think there's 12 in total, I think, but I'm not going to name them all. You also have your suit powers, which you press the right thumbstick and the left thumbstick down at the same time. They're all quite interesting, but I wouldn't say they're especially powerful. They're more just to look fun, really. The main part is just the normal combat by pressing square and stuff. The bosses, honestly, aren't that great, really. The Fisk one, once you know what you're doing against him, is really easy. And I just don't really like most of the boss battles. Some of them are quite fun, but they're just not very challenging, even on the highest difficulty, which, may I add, you probably need to go on the highest difficulty, because then it's just a really short game if there's no respawning after the deaths and such. So you play on the highest difficulty, definitely, unless you just can't, which then don't spoil your fun by playing on too high a difficulty. But I'm not usually very good at games, and I managed to do it relatively easily. But the combat makes you feel really good. Like it makes you feel, when you can actually dodge properly later on, like a proper superhero, with how many guys, like normal thugs, you can just take out really easily. It's very good combat, and it's very well refined, and I applaud Insomniac Games for putting so much effort into it. That's about it for the combat part. Moving on from combat, but still staying in the kind of gameplay area, the web slinging is amazing. It's so fluid, and unlike most games where the tutorial kind of stops you from doing things that you can do later on, you can do everything from the start, which just makes moving around so much quicker when you know what you're doing in, say, New Game Plus and Ultimate Difficulty playthroughs, which you can do once you've completed the game on the highest difficulty, or any difficulty for New Game Plus, I believe. But anyway, the web sling is very fun. It moves really quickly. Sometimes I think how far you have to travel is a bit too much, but it's fine because there's a lot of stuff to do around the city as well, which encourages you to do a lot of web swinging. If I would never, there's no running around on the floor really in this game. You can, but I just wouldn't, because it's so much quicker and more fun to web swing, because they've got it down to a T. It's the best web swinging I've ever experienced, and I've played a good 3 Spider-Man games before. So I would say that the gameplay kind of thing would be probably a 7 or an 8 out of 10, because it's really let down by the bosses, which are just pretty lackluster, to be honest. Like, you'd probably die more with just a lot of mobs than the bosses, because they're more spectacles than challenges, if you know what I mean. Now for a bit on the characters. I can't really do it on the story because otherwise, because I'd get into spoilers, but the characters are very good. Not necessarily so much MJ, but Peter Parker is fleshed out loads. Like, I genuinely cared about what happened to him at the end, and there was a choice that he could make between, well, I can't say between what, but there was a choice that he could make at the end. You yourself can't make it, it's what the character makes, but I knew very much what I wanted him to make, because I felt he was being manipulated, and I thought, well, I don't want that to happen to him again, because I genuinely cared about him, and that's what a good game should be able to do with its story, if that's what it's trying to do, which I think most games should at this point, because it's such an effective way of making you really enjoy a game. Like, I love the Spider-Man game mostly because of the characters and the stories. It's not just the reason I like Peter Parker as a character so much is because of how funny he is, and because he's not just funny all the time. It's because he actually has a serious and a caring side about him too, as shown in the cutscenes and the things he says and does in the combat. Speaking of which, just a quick side note, Peter Parker has a rule where he doesn't kill people. When you first knock someone off the side of a building, you're like, oh, that's probably breaking the rule of not killing people. But then if you look at the side of the building, it's actually just webbed them up to the side of the building. Like, obviously Peter Parker wouldn't be able to do that, but it's just a nice little touch that the game developers made. And speaking of the developers, they're very good developers, because they've made a very good game with no microtransactions apart from the very worthwhile DLC, which I think there's 3 of them, which were all just as good as the others, and they're a decent price for how much content you get from them and such. And also, they had an opportunity relatively recently after the game released, where basically everyone wanted the Tobey Maguire suit from one of the Spider-Man films, where it's like the metal everywhere. Everyone wanted that, and the Insomniac Games, the creators, could have monetized that and said, oh, just pay like £1 for it, and people would have been happy to do that, but they didn't. They gave it away for free, just like something nice that the developers did. Which they do that a lot. They're just good developers, and I hope a lot, like EA and places like that kind of pick up on see that it's good press to do good things and such. But anyway, the characters are probably a 9 out of 10. Probably, like, I'd say they're a 9 out of 10. And I think that's the end of the review. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.